you so much for all the roles
Thank you.
take on. And The Promise, of course, is a very important and sensitive story for the world to know. And first off, were you concerned at all when you took on this film?
No, I was more embarrassed that I didn't know more about it ahead of time. You know, I was very naive about it, and it's incredible that such an atrocity could happen so recently and yet be sort of the great unknown genocide. So I was really fascinated in that. It was becoming more and more topical as I was reading the script. You know, there were two things that were happening. One, I was reading about, Musa Dagh, where the Armenians are held under siege on a mountain and are being slaughtered. And I was watching on the news the Yazidis being trapped under siege on a mountain, being slaughtered by ISIS at the same time. So I was thinking that's a crazy correlation and tragic that that's relevant. Then also it was the 100th anniversary. And so many world leaders were starting to talk about it more. The Pope actually used the word genocide, and people were becoming much more enlightened about the Armenian genocide.
Come with me. Mikhail! What a pleasant surprise. Chris, Mikhail is the nephew of Monsieur Bogossian.
Christopher Myers.
Hey, nice to meet you.
The legendary Chris Myers.
Emre Ogun, notorious playboy, frequents opium dens. How and why the hell did they let you in here? Good to see you. May I introduce Mademoiselle Anna Kassari?
Constantinople is blessed by your beauty, Mademoiselle Kassarian.
Nice to meet you.
Please join us. Sir.
I'm so happy we get to meet when I'm not teaching.
Yes, what a surprise.
Chris is a star reporter for the Associated Press.
We met in Paris when my father was deputy consul.
His father was a spy.
That's why you were such a good drinking companion. You were looking to expose us. A toast to old friends and new. Cheers.
I heard that in the past, Hollywood did try to make this story, but it wasn't successful. Why do you think this film, The Promise, can finally be out on the big screen?
Because it's purely self-financed by Kirk Kerkorian. Even when he owned MGM, he tried to get it made, but various, as I'm told, various Turkish interests, asked that it be shut down, and it never was made. I can't tell you how many people I've met who've come up and said, we cannot wait to see the film. We've been waiting for decades.
I really like the character you portray in this film. He worked for AP back then, Chris Myers. Was there much material for you to research on him? Because to me, I think he's truly a hero guy.
I looked at Ambassador Morgenthal's correspondence. I looked at many of the U.S. missionaries' correspondence, which all seemed to be fitting and in keeping with each other in describing the atrocities. There was Herman Wegner's photographs as well. He was one of the very few people who managed to get photographs out, being a German soldier, and the Germans were very heavily present in Turkey at that time. But then I also looked at the U.S. and at the likes of Upton Sinclair, but very specifically Lincoln Steffens, who was a muckraker journalist of his era. He wrote Shame of Our Cities, and I thought he was very relevant for it. And Chris, goes through a transition. He's somebody who's very opinionated, somewhat arrogant, fiercely intelligent, but very right very often. But a man of appetites as well. You see it briefly with his absinthe, etc. And I wanted him to have that impression of being sort of dissolute in many people's minds, as compared to Mikhail. But then through the journey that he goes on, through his love for this Armenian lady, he finds himself. It's just undeniable that he actually has to become a participant in the story rather than just an observer.